On the night of the 2nd of September, 1859, a telegraph operator in Boston found his line misbehaving, alive with a current he had not sent. Up the coast in Portland, Maine, another operator saw the same thing. So the two of them tried something absurd. They cut their batteries out of the circuit completely and kept sending. For more than 2 hours, their messages crossed New England on a current no one had switched on. It was steadier, they said, than the batteries had ever been, and it was coming out of the sky. Above them, the sky was the reason. Sheets of red and green light stood over places that had no word for them, over Havana, over Hawaii, and over Panama, the last of them only a few degrees from the equator. In Boston, people came into the streets after midnight and found they could read ordinary print by the light of it. In Washington, you could read the time from the face of a watch. The whole night side of the earth had lit up at once, and no one yet knew why. For all of recorded history, the aurora had belonged to the far north, a polar light, a sailor's omen. No one had ever tied it to a machine, and no one had tied it to the sun. To find what had reached across the entire planet in a single night, you have to go back one morning to a garden observatory in Surrey and a quiet man drawing the sun. On the morning of the 1st of September, Richard Carrington was doing what he did on every clear day, throwing the sun's image onto a screen, tracing a great chain of sunspots by hand. At 18 minutes past 11, 2 patches of intensely bright, white light broke out among the spots. As brilliant, he wrote, as direct sunlight. He had never seen anything like it. And he wasn't the only one. Miles away, another English observer, Richard Hodgson, caught the same flash. Carrington ran to bring back a witness of his own, and in the minute it took him, the light had already begun to fade. He marked exactly where it had been, and set it into the record. It was the first solar flare ever recorded. At the very instant Carrington saw the flare, a magnetic needle outside London gave one small, sharp kick, the flare's light and X-rays, arriving together, 8 minutes out from the sun, and then quiet. For most of a day, the needles barely stirred, but the same eruption had flung something slower after the light, a cloud of the sun's own matter, crossing 150 million kilometers of empty space. 17.5 hours after the flare, it reached the Earth, and magnetometers around the world began to move at once. In Bombay, an observer at the Colaba Observatory, reading his instrument by eye, logged the steepest fall in the magnetic field ever measured there. In London, a self-drawing magnetic trace ran clean off the edge of its chart. Carrington now held 2 facts, a day apart, a flash he had watched with his own eyes, and a shock the whole Earth had felt. He believed they were one event, but he was a careful man. One swallow, he wrote, does not make a summer. He could not yet prove it, but he had drawn the first line anyone ever had between something happening on the sun and something happening to us. That line was the beginning of an idea we now take for granted, that the sun has weather, and that its weather can reach across space and touch the Earth. On that same night, high in the Rocky Mountains, a party camping under the lights woke a little after midnight, so sure that morning had come that they got up and began to cook breakfast. They were wrong by hours. What had woken them was not the dawn. It was the sun, reaching down to rewrite the sky, and for one night, the wires and needles of the world below. For a long time, that was a beautiful story with no teeth, until we wired the whole planet for real. On the 13th of March, 1989, a far smaller storm reached Canada. In under 90 seconds, the entire power grid of Quebec went down. 6 million people lost electricity, in the dark and the cold before dawn, for about 9 hours, knocked out by a disturbance a fraction the size of the one Carrington saw. And the Great One has not missed us forever. In July of 2012, a storm scientists rate in the same class as 1859 tore across the Earth's orbit, straight through the place our planet had been only about a week before. One spacecraft, off to the side, watched it go by. Had it come a week earlier, it would have struck a world that now runs entirely on the wires such as storm sets alight. The flash Carrington sketched in pencil is still up there, waiting to happen again. The sun has been writing to us for a very long time. We are only now learning to read it.